Okay. I'm going to go ahead and call this month's meeting to order. It's great to see all of you. Thank you for making it. I know that we are all still, kind of adjusting in terms of our plans and comfort levels and things like that with in-person events. So we're happy to have you. We also have people joining us on. And so, we're adapting and learning all kinds of new things.
They said yes, they can hear you.
Yeah, they can hear you. Okay, great. As you can see, the Senior Center is still happy to host us and still holding events. We did have a citywide mask policy implemented maybe about a week or so ago, and so we're just going to continue to follow that. Before we do get started and before I introduce our guest speaker for the month, I just want to go ahead and introduce myself and Ian, our other officer who's here. For those of you that haven't been to our meetings or haven't been here in a while, my name is Lauren Chinsky. I'm the chair of the Royal Area Democratic Club. I'm joined by Ian Duncanson, our treasurer, who's in the back, seriously working away for us, and he'll come up and give the treasurer's report in just a minute. Our Reddy is our vice chair, and Rachel Andrews is our secretary, and they're both unable to join us this morning. So before we get into some of our business and before we invite David London up to speak, I do want to acknowledge the fact that today is the 20th anniversary of the attack on September 11th. When we were first looking at the calendar and we realized that this meeting was going to fall today, I had some misgivings about whether or not it was appropriate to still hold our meeting, whether or not people would find other things to do, whether there would be things going on. And David and I were just speaking this morning again. And I feel like this is a really great place for us to be this morning. I think that it's good that we are all people that care about improving our country constantly. And I think that that's a good thing to be reminded of. I do want to take just a moment of silence to acknowledge the events that happened today. It's 10:05 right now, so we're almost exactly at some of these important milestones. So if we could just take a moment of silence and thought, prayer, reflection, I would appreciate it. Is there anyone that would like to share any thoughts, feelings, remembrances about today? I just wanted to open up the opportunity, and obviously having David here today to join us is a really wonderful opportunity. Ian, do you want to come up and give us a quick report?
Yep.
Okay. While he's making his way up, I do want to acknowledge our big events coming up. We've got hopefully a great revival of Denton beer. We're calling it Dentoberfest this year as a kickoff to our fall celebration and campaign season 2, which we'll have more information about soon.
Awesome. I was just getting all the numbers together. So we had, in terms of expenses, for the last month, we spent about $16.95 to order some masks. They are not here yet, obviously, but we wanted to have some on hand for the club. The sanitizer that we got, we spent $9.60 on that. The room for this month was $105, and then we had $568 to put an ad for Dentoberfest in the Royal Oak Review. So we're hoping to get some attendance from that. That's far less for reference than we spent on ads last year. And then we also purchased some flyers for a total expense for the last month of $895.95. In terms of income, we had $100 in August in dues and $100 so far in September, including some funds for the Dentoberfest. So our current checking balance is $35.07 and 43 cents. Our savings, which is our scholarship fund, has $2,304.94. We have not yet issued that scholarship. Any questions? Cool.
Thanks, Ian. David, would you like to join us? We'd like to welcome David London up to be our guest speaker for the month. He's a veteran of the U.S. Army and the current chair of the Royal Oak Veterans Events Committee. I'm sure you've seen him around town and active both in person and on social media. Pleased to have him and thrilled to hear what he has to share with us.
The money that's, all right, yes, David London, and chair of the Veterans Friends Committee here where I live. We put on the Memorial Day Parade, we put on Veterans Day, we put on, okay. So been a resident here for a while, and as I mentioned, I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army. I was in the 101st Airborne Division, 1st 101st Aviation Regiment, which is a fancy way of saying that we love tanks. Let me start with the one thing everybody always says. Now, this was mentioned zero veteran. What's the first thing everybody always says when you meet a veteran? Oh, thank you for your service. Everybody always says thank you for your service. And it's like the sneeze. It's bless you. It's a gesundheit. You know, if somebody sneezes, you say, oh, bless you. Well, you're not actually blessing people, and it's the same thing with the thank you for your service. It's become such a reflexive thing that people just say it without actually understanding what that means, because most people don't have a connection to service. And that's not because people are bad people, it's because of it comes down to numbers. A veteran is, by Title 38 of the U.S. Code, a veteran is a person who served in the active military, naval, or air service, and who is discharged or released under conditions other than dishonorable. So if you have a dishonorable discharge, that can be a veteran. So here's the reason why most people don't have a connection to the service. They don't understand what veterans are, is because back in World War II, a full 50+% of the country had some direct connection. They had a father or brother or uncle or something like that, or served themselves. So that was well over 50% in World War II. By the time you get to Vietnam, it's around about 33%, about 1/3 of direct connection. And that's with the draft. You get to 9/11, you get to Afghanistan, you get to Iraq, it's down to about 10 to 11% of Americans that have a direct connection to the military, to veterans, other than, that's the problem is, with 90% of the country having almost no connection to service the country, all you get is action movie versions or TV versions, or you get the stylized version. You don't actually get, you don't get what it means to actually serve the country. So unfortunately, we already have a country that is overwhelmingly fed ideas of what it means to be a veteran, what it means to serve. And one of the things that I spend quite a bit of time on is sort of knocking down that idea. A little bit about my background. I was in for 4 years. And the reason it wasn't longer than 4 years is I was essentially brought out of the U.S. Army because some guy, redneck guy from Alabama, started spreading a rumor that I was gay. Clearly not gay. I, had girlfriends at the time, but it doesn't matter. Once the rumor was there, everybody in my unit essentially said there's no place in this man's arm for a fact. And they told me they'd never leave. I'd never get promoted. I'd be stuck at E4. I'd be digging ditches the entire time. I had to get out of the Army because the Army abandoned me because someone started a group. And yet, with me, even though I have an honorable discharge, I'm a veteran in the same way that somebody who's kicking down doors in Fallujah is a veteran. The problem is most Americans don't see a difference between those two. I see a huge difference. I did not serve in wartime. I served from 92 to 96 in what was considered peacetime. And yet the guys who signed up after 9/11, men and women who went off to war knowing exactly what they were doing and then got out are veterans. And we still use the same word. It's almost like we need a different word. But the problem is most Americans don't understand that it's all the same thing. we always say, people say, oh, thank you for your service. And the next thing that people always say is, everyone, you guys, you're all heroes. And that's something we kind of have to knock down too. Again, if 90% of the country thinks that being a soldier means being, rushing headlong into battle, dodging bullets, pulling people off. It's men and women in motor pool fixing something. I fixed the chain gun on an Apache helicopter and fixed the computer. I never went into battle. Most jobs in the military are not combat jobs. And those people are veterans too. So again, it helps to think about veterans not as a monolithic block. There were heroes among us, just like in police and fire. There's heroes among us, but that doesn't mean just because you put the uniform on, you get a hero honor. That cheapens the idea of a hero is. There were people that would run headlong into enemy fire and pull their buddies back from danger, and they deserve every award that they get. But just because somebody's a veteran, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about people who, again, just like any specific block, whether it's the voting block, whether it be, racial, whether it be religious, the one thing that you can take away is that it's not a monolithic group. And that's why I'm speaking here. And I just got a letter last night from the VFW, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, that is saying how much Bill hates veterans and they hate, the soldiers and they hate everything like that. And that's why they cast aside this memorial, 70 feet, I think. The thing to take away too, it's not a monolithic block. It's not, everybody who has the term veteran tacked on is not the same thing. So one of the things that I want to talk about is why we have this almost fetish, this worship of veterans, whereas say back in Vietnam, I'm only 47. I wasn't even there for the veteran home, and I still understand. So we got to dial back the clock a little bit. After World War II, when people came home, they came home to take parades and cannon fire and kissing the streets, and it was life changing. Fast forward to Vietnam, folks coming home. Yes, it is true that soldiers were spit on, all baby killers. After the My Lai massacre, it was hard to kind of raise your head and say, yes, I'm a veteran, because what a veteran meant after Vietnam was very different than what it meant after World War II. And then, of course, there's a forgotten war in there too. In Korea, people go, oh yeah, we forgot about that. So after Vietnam, us as a country did a lot of deep thinking about, well, how do we treat people that serve? And it wasn't all organic. We'd like to think that how we treat veterans now is just an outgrowth of, oh, we don't want to repeat what happened in Vietnam. Well, that after understood what it meant to be visual, to be putting stuff. Think of every 80s action, Rambo, gun blazing, Top Gun type of thing. Those were all done with the intention of making Americans treat veterans different. That's not a bad thing. Now, it was bad how veterans were treated that. And again, this goes to my second point, which is never treating everyone with as you would want to treat. So if there's veterans that that there are people who committed atrocities in Vietnam, in Korea, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and those represent a tiny, tiny portion. And the problem is some people after Vietnam treated all veterans that way. So it's not a bad thing that we try to get people treated differently, but the problem is that ramped up. And then on this day in 2001, 9/11 happened. At that point, on September 12th, honoring veterans became tantamount to, if you don't do that, you are not patriotic, you don't love America. It was the terrorist attacks that put, how we thought about veterans and soldiers into overdrive. And
everybody was pretty much on the same page on September 12th. You know, Democrats, Republicans, didn't matter. You know, you think of how different it was back then. You know, you had two whole parties supporting one man in the White House, no matter what his party was. It's like for that brief moment in time, you know, there was unity. It fell apart very quickly after that, obviously. We all remember you know, what happened. But the problem is most people don't understand what happened to veterans after that. Almost immediately we went into Afghanistan. The troops that went into Afghanistan right away by December had routed the Taliban, and the Taliban was done by December of 2001. And at that point, we had a choice to make. Say, okay, good job, let's go home, or stay and try to build a Western side democracy in Afghanistan. Our troops that were trained to fight wars by December of 2001 had to learn how to wage peace. We weren't taught how to wage peace. We're really good at blowing stuff up. You know, we're really good at throwing them down range and piercing the body. That's what we're taught to do. And the problem was that, you know, after Afghanistan, things really ramped up. PTSD started being a very big problem. And they started sending people back to the front as opposed to being out. You know, obviously we started a war in Iraq. And at that point, what it means to be veteran changed. People started viewing people who were soldiers differently. And the problem with that was anytime you have that much emotion tied up in an idea, a concept, what needs to be veteran, what you're going to end up getting is people who use that for their own end. And really, after Iraq and Afghanistan, that's when the term that's when the idea of that soldier really came up with the football. People said, we can use this. We can use this to sort of get people to do certain things or to believe certain things. And if you don't do it, then if you don't believe in acting, you don't value soldiers. If you don't value soldiers, you're not under. So the fact of the matter is, you know, all of us have a goal. When you're enlisted or whether you're an officer, whatever, every single one of us right now has a different goal. I don't know if you ever heard of it. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations and the new home code of military justice, so help me God. Every one of us said that with some variation. Every single one of us pledged to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's it. Not a political party, not a group, not a region. We swore to support and defend the Constitution. Four pieces of paper. Now, we didn't pledge to a party. We didn't pledge to an idea or ideology. We pledged to a bunch of pieces of paper that. And the thing that most bothers me when it comes to that is the idea that there's a side. Now, when you say, I'm going to support the Constitution, there's no asterisk. There's no like, unless it's this party, or if it's for this thing, or whether it's this thing. All freedoms is what we pledge our lives. And the one thing that makes a lot of people mad is when I point out, look, there was the blue art on the lawn near the War Memorial years ago. You can't have art there. And I went to the commission and said the same thing I always say. Look, we took the goal to support and defend freedom, not this freedom or that freedom, all freedoms. And what most people really don't want to hear is if some guy uses his freedom of speech to rip a flag in half on one half and focus on the other, we signed up to defend his right to do that. I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it. I can be very mad about it. But we all pledged our lives to support the freedom to do that. Because if you don't have that level of freedom, the freedom that we have in this country that we fight for, what's the point? So the one thing that I always try to tell people is, look, anybody who's, if you're using veterans to argue a political point, you're already, it's already discussed. We didn't sign up to fight for one political party or another, or one ideology or another. We didn't sign up to fight for one group or, one people or one, whatever. It's everyone. Not just some freedoms, all freedoms. Not just some people, but all people. And the one thing that I really want people to take away is any veteran who stands up and says, or any person who stands up and says, I speak for all veterans, when I say, no, that's like, one person, one woman standing up saying, I speak for all women. Or, one black person who stands up and said, I speak for all black people. No. Stop thinking of veterans as a monolithic block. Stop thinking that they're only one party or one group. And stop thinking in terms of that there's an agenda. If you're truly honor that oath that we took, that anyone who's wearing the hat that they're wearing, at one point they took that oath. They took the oath to honor, to support and defend all people, all freedoms at all times. And we don't get to pick and choose. As a civilian, I can have whatever opinion I want. But as a soldier, not so much. And so last night I got a letter. I'm a member of the Acorn Pro Citizens. Even though I didn't serve in war, I had to prove that my father and my grandfather served in wartime so that I could do the PFW. I didn't serve it. But I got this letter back that's talking about the Veterans Memorial, and it's saying how much Royal Oak hates veterans and this, that, and the other thing, and of course that's not true. None of it was actually true in there, but it doesn't matter. Most people, most citizens, when they hear the word veteran, they go, "Oh, veteran's good." And if something is opposed to veterans, that I'm mad. That it's become a shorthand. It's a shortcut. And the problem with shortcuts is, especially, it's not the real thing. It's not the real argument. It's a shortcut that people use for political purposes. The idea that a city can hate veterans is ridiculous. No. Now, I'm not going to get into a lot of the details about the veteran, the War Memorial in the new park. There's a lot of people here in this room that are much more knowledgeable about that and speak out for this. But the fact is, a lot of people are using the term veteran, the idea of soldiers, for their own benefits to get, whatever means they want. And I'm here to say, don't be afraid. You need to take something away, which is you can disagree with a soldier, you can disagree with a veteran, you can disagree with a group without being dishonorable. If you disagree with somebody who wore a uniform at one point, that doesn't mean you hate that service. It means you disagree with that person. And the problem is we've all been told that there's this shorthand that if you disagree with somebody who used to wear a uniform, you hate what they did, you hate their service, you hate America. And that's not true. We need to learn how to speak to and about soldiers and veterans better, because it's a lot of people are using the shorthand in other directions. Now, I in my capacity as the chairman of the Veterans Defense Committee, we haven't taken a stance on this. The only thing we've ever said was our job is to honor veterans and to memorialize those people who gave their lives to the country, and that's it. On the very first day that I was meeting, American Legion and the VFW, they were arguing after we get to go first in line in the Memorial Day Parade. And I mistakenly raised my hand. I raised my hand and said, okay, here's the problem. If we're here to complain about our place in line for Memorial Day, we're doing it wrong. It's not about us. We're alive. There's a day for that, veterans. And I think a lot of people are kind of stuck on that idea that, we're here complaining about the right way to honor and the right way to commemorate. And the fact is, no one can tell you how to honor something. Nobody can tell you how to commemorate. Nobody can tell you how to suffer your own way. It's ridiculous. Somebody can tell you that. So the one thing I always say about the Veterans Memorial is that, like any memorial, it's not the marble or granite that makes it special. It's just rock. It's just rock. We carve names out of that rock, and that's what makes it special. It's not that they're put onto it, it's that they're carved out of it. It's that pieces of that rock were carved away to make names of fallen. And it is their absence from that rock and their absence from this community that makes them special in our eyes. It's not the rock. It's the piece of marble. And where it stands is not the important part. Because it's not a cemetery, it's not Howlett Ground, we're not buried underneath. It's not a cemetery, it's a manifest. It's a manifest of those people who, who didn't make it. And in my mind, we honor the dead, we honor those soldiers who gave their lives by giving them a space that we can reflect on, that we can actually take in what they gave, since most people, since 90% of people have no idea what that means. And other people are going to have different opinions than me, that's fine. But we need to learn how to speak about veterans and military knowledgeably to make a difference. And I really do think that my big takeaway is we put on the Rock 22 March every year, which raises awareness of veteran suicide. 4 times more people who committed suicide in the Cold War after 9/11 than have actually been killed in the wars that started. We put on the Rock 22 March every single year. Everything that I've heard, both from whatever group has said about this war memorial, people show up and they wave their flags, they wave their banners, and this one from last night says, "Oh, you know what? We show up on this day at a commission meeting, wave your thing, and there's hundreds of people." You know how many people showed up for Rock 22 March last year, March 15th, to raise awareness of veteran suicide? 0. The people who want to make a fuss about political issues and use our name, it's like, it's like any group. You can't say that you speak for every entire group, and you certainly can't use the existence of that group for political purpose, because it goes against everything that we serve. Nobody showed up to March for Rock 22, 2.2 miles. It's not even long. It's 2.2 miles. If people cared as much about veterans, maybe we go. If citizens actually care that much about veterans, as we say we do, we wouldn't have scourge of veteran suicide. We wouldn't have homeless veterans. We wouldn't have people hurting. We raise not only money, but also we gather food and clothing and whatnot. If every person who said, "Thank you for your service," they really meant it, we wouldn't have this problem right now. So if you need it, you have my permission to say, look, you can disagree with somebody who used to wear a uniform without dishonoring that uniform. And it's not only your right to do so, they took an oath for you to do that. Every single person took that oath so that you have the freedom to disagree, because otherwise, what was this way? Anybody has any questions? Fire them off. If you want to know more about certain things, fire it up. If you want to know the actual, we actually have for the veteran memorial. There's far more knowledgeable people about that. But the one thing that I want to say is that don't be cowed by the fact that somebody used to wear a uniform. That shouldn't surprise anybody. It shouldn't be an instant, you can honor someone's service and still disagree with them, and that's the biggest takeaway. You disagreeing does not mean that you somehow are belittling their service. Anybody have any questions? Yeah. Okay. So it's I'll dig up right now, but I think it's 22ruck.com. But it's the Ruck 22 is a recent edition. I think we're in our 4th year today. It's always the Saturday before Veterans Day. And what we do is it's a 2.2 mile loop. And it's based on the idea of the average number of soldiers that commit suicide daily. Now, some years it's up, some years it's down. Whether that's accurate every year doesn't matter. It's meant to raise awareness of suicide. Way higher than we pack. You take a rucksack, you put either 22 items in or 22 pounds in. You march 2.2 miles, and at the end of that, we have collection points for for not just for clothing, socks and underwear. If you're homeless, you can make a change go a long way, but socks and underwear. So we collect all these things, and then we also collect money, and that money goes to folks at VA Hospital who are very good at getting people help. is just a military. So yeah, Rock 22, and I believe the website is 22rock.com, but I'll check before. Okay. Any other questions?
Just people are asking if you could speak directly into the mic. It makes it easier to hear.
Yeah, it's very, very close to my ears.
Yeah, that's the best if you do just to make it really loud. But just not a question, really, just a comment. But I've noticed that the people who scream the loudest about their patriotism are the exact people who oppose programs that would help veterans. And with the trillions of dollars we spend every year on the military, I find it obscene that we have to collect canned goods on street corners to meet the needs of the veterans. It's just awful.
Funny, Global War on Terror, GWOT, which is what we call all fighting after 9/11. $7 trillion in total so far is what we've spent on Global War on Terror. That didn't go to people. That went to weapons manufacturers. It goes to private security firms. It goes to, I mean, there's a million different ways to spend that much money, but it's not going to veterans. And that's one of them. It's been my biggest complaint ever since I got out, is that if America really cared about veterans as much as it says it would, we wouldn't have people who need benefits to get by, who serve their country. Now, going back to the whole hero thing, people say, "Oh, all you guys are heroes." And it might sound shocking. Literally, every Klansman, like an actual hood-owning Klansman I ever met, was in the army. Every guy every Neo Confederate I ever met in person who is like just waiting for slavery to come back was in the army. So again, when people say, "Oh, you guys are heroes," really? We had I served in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. We had drive-by shooting on base between rival gangs in the army. So no, we weren't all heroes. So the idea of that just because you put on a uniform, you're somehow this heroic thing. No, it's just like, think of all the people you know in your life. Now think of all the idiots you know in your life. It's like that too. So much of I worked in Army aviation. There were so many accidents that killed people. We have a monthly magazine track of them all. Like helicopters fell out of the sky at such an alarming rate, we call Black Ops lawn darts because they go nose first and stick in the mud. So yeah, one of the problems that people, they just think of it, they think that it's the movie star version of what service is, as opposed to it's people who pledge their life to the country. But that again, I mean, stop thinking that every single person who wants to, they're worthy of respect for doing that. Absolutely. Never feel ashamed, for saying, "Oh, thank you for your service," or even better than that one, which is, "How are you doing?" I appreciate your service. Say whatever you want, but don't feel ashamed for honoring veterans. But also don't, from the same way, don't go in there and say, "Oh, everyone in the United States is a superhero." No, that's no. Any other questions?
Yeah, so, David, I really appreciate you here today. Really learned something. Your mind never shuts off.
Nope. Never. It's
Maybe
good.
don't sleep, maybe you're a vampire. And I appreciate you kind of articulating, the monolithic view of veterans. So at one point I will say though, is that, I'm grateful that, you and everybody here took it on to support the Constitution. That doesn't mean everyone puts up to it. And second, even though I know you and some others see action and combat, you still enlisted the Army knowing that that was the risk that you could potentially be thrown into very dangerous situations. So that matters, okay? Not everyone, will make that commitment, so that doesn't matter. My question is, so maybe I'm a little bit, I don't want to say biased, but, clearly I have, people that are early in my career talking to me, advising me, giving me information. And, this obviously is a particular issue in our community that you mentioned. You have people that say, "Oh, I speak for veterans," very loud, very, raucous. And then I can tell you on my end, I've had a number of, I can count, it almost seems more people that have served or veterans come to me and say, "This is the bunch that really, they don't represent us." They seem to be more quieter, more respectful, more reserved. What is your experience, in your opinion? What do you think, kind of drives people to be part of this vocal like raising their eyebrows saying, this makes no sense, but they're quiet, how does that happen? Like, what is your-
To your point, yes, there's even within veteran circles, there's a running joke. Those who talk the most saw the least. I've had a guy, I knew a guy back in General Motors, he went up in a helicopter once, turned a couple gunshots, and was talked by stop. I worked with a guy for 4 years at General Motors before I found out he was in the service, much less in the Army, much less an Army Ranger. There is a direct connection to how much people talk to how little they actually saw. Now, it's not a one-to-one, but it's a running joke. Now, one of the things too is to be a good soldier, and let me make this clear, I was not a good soldier. I was fantastic. I was literally the best at what I did. I was a distinguished honor graduate in every school I ever went to, but I was not a good soldier because I tend to push back. I tend to try to help people when I'm told not to help them. It's probably why I'm here. But for the most part, people who serve and serve well generally don't speak up. If you're a good soldier, by your very nature, you don't generally speak or question authority. You don't generally go against the grain. You do what you're told, you pass smoke and move out, finish the mission. So almost by definition, a good soldier is somebody who doesn't stand up and shout and raise their fist and everything like that too, because as I found out, a good soldier is one who shuts up. Now, to your point about the politicization of it, is that some people have found that you can get your way easier. You don't have to make the arguments as coherently if you just use a shorthand. And some people have found out that they can use their service, total service to others, to get their way faster without having to go through, do their due diligence to actually make their argument. And that's not anyone's service, it's not anyone's type of person, but there are people who figure out that they can use their service and service to others as a shorthand to win arguments before they actually have to defend their position. And that's really what it comes down to. If you can defend your position without throwing all veterans on the bus, they do it. So anytime anybody is standing up and saying, oh, you know what, all veterans are asking for all veterans do this or something like that, they're already in a losing position because they wouldn't have to do that if their arguments were strong, or if their the legal argument was strong, or if their the moral and ethical argument. It's a green card, yes, a camel card. So to the point is, I don't think it's any one person, but some people realize, they figure out that they can do that all the time. And the reason why the ones that aren't vocal don't stand up and change this is because, as a rule, soldiers are taught not to do that. That's how you get by. So it's not enlisted versus officers. It's just some people have learned once they got out how to system, and that's every time I see somebody, I speak for all veterans when I say such and such. I know right then that that's somebody who figured out they can use that as a weapon, as opposed to just that's my. Any other questions?
Yeah, what do you think if there was mandatory civil service required of all high school graduates? How would that affect, and part of the mandatory civil service included the military? Do you think the mental health issues that veterans are experiencing and the way that which people look at the military would change if we had something like that versus volunteer army?
Yes, absolutely. My life was changed by joining. I joined because we were bored. We didn't have money. I couldn't go to school. I joined for the college. But then again, I joined before 9/11. People who joined after 9/11 knew exactly what to get into. That is almost by definition a different breed of person. I joined and I had a very high ASVAB score. ASVAB is it's like an SAT. So I pretty much had my pick, and I picked 68X. Now, my my service changed the way I think about service in general, service in country. It changes, if you actually read the Constitution, which I'm garbage, there's a whole lot left to read. So I read that and I read my oath and I took them very, very seriously. Even though I wasn't a particularly good soldier in the sense of shutting up and doing what I was told, I really tried to embody why we were there. And if more people serve, I was talking earlier, there's you can serve in different ways. You can serve in a Peace Corps. You can serve, like, if we had a civilian corps, then what do we do? Okay. Now, the idea of serving others, serving your country, making the world a better place is invaluable. You view things differently. You become a different person after you do that. The problem is, the majority of the time, the people wear a uniform, there's other people that need to have metal put through the body somewhere in the world. That's what military service comes down to, is your job, no matter what your job is to facilitate throwing metal down range and piercing and squishing human bodies with metal over there. That's just what we do. And people get grossed out by that, or they make a heroic thing, or they fetishize it or whatever. But, putting metal on range and imposing, that's the words we use in there. We're imposing our will on others to get a certain result. The problem is that's the only way most people see to serve their country. If we had a corps where you can serve without having to take a life, I think more people would do it. I think if you had essentially a Peace Corps, but for America, if you had a uniformed non-military service, that you could serve your country without either getting killed by someone else or you killing someone else. Absolutely. All the people that serve there in the military because that's what they want to do would go there. You'd still have people that, want to go and we say, oh, we even call it the Department of Defense. It used to be the Department of War because, well, that sounds like we haven't had to defend the homeland with the British. I mean, even Hawaii, and my grandfather was in Pearl Harbor when it was attacked. But if you think about it, Pearl Harbor, that wasn't even America then. I mean, Hawaii wasn't a state. But the last time foreign troops actually invaded the homeland, the American homeland, it was the British. We have two oceans on either side of us. We don't generally have people coming in and invading us. So we say it's defense, but it isn't. We're mostly offense. So I guess to your point, if we had a group where people could serve and serve their country and change their lives for the better without the risk of having to kill or be killed, I absolutely think that would be a wonderful thing. In today's environment, I can't imagine that it would be passed, but I absolutely think that would be wonderful. Anybody else? Yeah.
I just have kind of a question.
Believe it or not, even though my committee does not deal with that, and we've talked around quite a bit about this, people have come to us and said, how come there's no Iraq and Afghanistan? To which, one, we don't know if anybody from Iraq or that. Two, there's not a master database that we can tell. If there was, we'd find out. I don't even know what committee or what group or whatever society would handle that. We don't even know.
Actually, there is memorials, not part of the main memorial.
For Iraq and Afghanistan, because I've seen other ones.
Different separate memorials that are separate.
Right. I just haven't seen any for like the last.
They were back behind the story.
Yeah, and I have personally handwritten every single name on every one of those plaques. Our volunteer t-shirt has every one of them. The fact is we don't know, and we have even when searching for this, we found people that weren't from Royal Oak whose names were on there because they went to school here or whatever. But it is something we're interested in. But again, I wouldn't even know what committee would handle that or how to add to that. But again, it goes back to the thing that I always come back to, which is the memorial is not a cemetery. No one's buried there. It's not Hallowed Ground. it's a marker, it's a list of names that we should remember for their sacrifice. But it is not in and of itself, not magic. It's a list of names so that we can, that everyday civilians can look at it and go, all right, I get it. These people gave their life, and just from this area, if you've ever been to DC, you've ever looked at the Vietnam, the Vietnam Memorial is heartbreaking because it's just endless names. And you get them, if you haven't seen it, that's it. But they serve a purpose. They get people to think differently about their freedoms in their lives. And if we do end up finding Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, there are people who died in service, we'll try to make that happen. It's not our committee, but as a veteran, I know that. Yes. Mhm. I would be happy to. The problem is there's not a pro war memorial and an anti-war memorial side. It seems like that, certainly seems like that in the press and in the newspaper and Memorial Day, I was interviewed by some. But the problem is it's not that, some people are for honoring the dead and some people are not. It's that some people want to make it into something that it's not. I think every single party involved would be happy to make sure that stays up to date, that stays, that what it does is honor those people who fell as opposed to, and again, it goes back to the very first thing. If we're here to complain about the position of this thing in one direction or another, 40 people one direction or another, it's not about us. So absolutely, I don't think I think you're right in the sense that it's going to have to be after the election anyway. But I don't buy into the idea that there's a pro and a for and against side. I think that's the narrative, and I think what we need to do is fight that narrative. There isn't anybody who's against it. It's just, there's one side that says it, and I reject that, completely reject it. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to anybody in the future about it. Any questions? Yes. As a matter of fact, we have an opening. We had somebody. It's a link on the website on Rome.gov. Just like any committee, it's an online form that you sign up, pick the one. What we are looking for somebody right now. We have a minimum of one opening. But as the chair, ever since day one, the one thing I've always said, which is whatever your personal feelings, whatever you vote for, whatever your party, whatever your stripe, it doesn't matter. Once we walk in that room, we all take our hats off and we all focus on, what is the best way we create events to honor those veterans who are alive, to memorialize those people who gave their lives, and to raise awareness about the struggles that soldiers and veterans have. And then when we're done with our committee meetings, we all shake hands, we can all go put on our red and blue hats and we can go our separate ways. But in our capacity as a committee, we are completely apolitical, non-political, whatever word you want to use. And that's the only standing order I have, but we're always looking for people who want to get more involved. You join up, you may be out there at 6 o'clock in the morning eating donuts with me on Memorial Day, putting on a parade, but that's fine. I mean, that's what we do. So there is an opening. We can make the website available, and we're more than happy to see new faces. When I started, I was the only veteran on there. I think we had four or five. Four. Yeah, it's good to have different views and different viewpoints, so long as we all check our hats for and keep it specifically about soldiers.
Is there an online link to join your Veterans Committee?
Yes, I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's on the Romy.gov. We can post it later. If you just go to Romy and click on volunteer or something like that. And I believe there's a link on the Veterans Council Committee page for signing up. We do have my son is the student liaison for the club. We're always looking for new people. Anybody else? I greatly appreciate you listen to me ramble. And I think most people in this room have heard some variation of my rant over the years, but it's always been consistent in the sense that, you know, if we cared about as much about veterans as we say we care about veterans, we would raise money and goods for that. We can do a better job. And it's not a party thing. It's not an ideological thing. It is it is the way I look at it as a civilian, as somebody who didn't even go off to war. You know, one of the reasons why I fight so hard for veterans is because I know that, you know, I quite literally got bullied. I served in a time when I wasn't being shot at, and those people who signed up were either drafted in Vietnam or signed up in 9/11. You know, I view my service differently than their service, and I'm told I shouldn't, but we all do. And that's one of the reasons why I fight so hard for veterans and for veteran suicide, raising awareness of PTSD, is that because I feel that I owe more to my country and wasn't allowed to serve the way I wanted to because I'm homophobic. So that's one. And I think everybody here is here because you feel some urge to serve at some level, whether it's, you know, local, grassroots, you know, state, county, whatever. I think everybody's probably here because you feel that desire to serve others as well.
Thanks so much again for, well, everything. I think all the thoughts and ideas. It's given us, I think, all a lot to contemplate. I will make sure that we continue to share information about the events going on. I think that I can pretty much guarantee there will be more than 0 people at your Rock March this year. And so we'll make sure that we can, we'll make sure that we can make that happen. So thank you so much for your time and thought. That was a great way to start our day. So 2 quick announcements before I ask for some updates from our elected officials. Like I said briefly, but I do want to give you a little bit more detail and information about our Dumptoberfest. This is the fall reiteration of what used to be Dumps and Beer. It's just a chance for us to raise some money and get to know our local candidates a little bit better. It's going to be held at 5th Ave this year. We are going to cross our fingers so that the weather cooperates and that we can hold it outside on the street and in that tented area rather than being inside at the bar. It's $20. That includes entrance to the event, food, and either small beer samples or a single drink. Yeah, it's just going to be an opportunity. It is Sunday afternoon, 4 to 6 on September 26th. You can purchase a ticket in advance on our website, or you can give our treasurer Ian the cash or check for that, or you can buy tickets the day off. So one thing that we are curious about though is interest in the event and comfort level in the event. We know that as things change with our COVID restrictions and guidance, right, about events, some of these things are typically changing. We held off on holding it for the same reason. We thought we picked a date, you know, that would work. And of course, we're you know, finding ourselves in a little bit of a tricky situation again. So what we wanted to do, Lisa Mason and Mike James are on the committee to plan this event. They've been doing a wonderful job behind the scenes, getting everything going and lined up for that. But we were kind of curious about people's interest in the event and whether or not they were planning on attending. So just we're going to launch a poll for our friends that are joining us on Zoom, and then for people in the room. Just by a quick raise of hands, could you let us know if you are planning on attending the event in person on the 26th? Oh, fantastic. Mike, you're coming, right? Okay, good. Okay. All right, good. And we understand, obviously, as things will adjust, we're going to make a final decision with this week, but we just wanted to make sure that there was some commitment and make sure that people would be interested and comfortable in going. Obviously, we don't want to host anything that people aren't going to, you know, be willing to attend. So It looks like we're a go with that. That's fantastic. Good. So, like I said, if you want to buy tickets ahead of time, then that will just kind of ease the admissions process. We're going to have some games and trivia. We're going to have elected official bingo of sorts where we'll buy you a beer if you meet everybody in the room who's an elected official. We're going to have some trivia and door prizes and things like that as well too. If you're interested in volunteering or helping with that event, you can contact Lisa. She's got a sign-up sheet there that we can pass around either right now or, you know, at the end of the meeting. We also need some help collecting door prizes or donations. And then elected officials, we can continue to talk about sponsorship as well. I'd like to invite Pat up for another announcement. Obviously, in the spirit of this, the War Memorial issue in the city, David, you did a wonderful job kind of skirting around that. Like you said, it's not, I'm sure you're intimately involved, but also not your committee's responsibility. But we do have an update. Jim last month had mentioned that a committee was forming, and we've got some information about that initiative. Thank you very much. Before I do this information, if you are interested in applying to the city for committees, the website, I just looked it up, is www.romi.gov/535/form. All the list of all the forms, so everything that everyone sees, including about data, anything or anything else. But if you scroll down, there's the application for the committee and board. The committee is going to be doing new applications for the students. We have new applications looking at that. And we're going to be filling some vacancies, probably including the vacancy on the Veterans Affairs Committee. So if you're interested, fill out a form, simply get it back to the clerk's office, and we will, here we go. The microphone rattle. We will consider it. We're always looking for good people to volunteer. Jim Ellison and I are co-chairs of the newly formed ballot issue committee called Friends of Centennial Commons Park, which is the park that is in downtown Royal Oak. And this was put together because the monument and the movement of the monument issue negatively, seriously impacts the development of that park. And we have some more information on the back table, as well as copies of the ballot language itself. This is what you will find on your ballot when you see the ballot. And this is the ballot language for the Veterans Memorial Monument issue. It's going to be on the back of the ballot. It's so huge. And because it's so huge, your ballot size is actually going to be larger than normal because they needed more space to print the ballot. This is what's on the back of the ballot. And way at the bottom, there will be an opportunity for you to vote either for the ordinance or against the ordinance. This committee was formed clearly to fight the ordinance because of the significant negative impact it would have on the development of that park. But they didn't tell you when they were getting the signatures about, you know, we should need memorial, we shouldn't need memorial. The language that's in this ordinance that significantly restricts the use of a significant area within the park itself. So there's language in here that says that, and I'm going to read it to you. Following portions of the Barbara O'Holland Memorial Plaza, along with the monuments and improvements on it, are designated for continued and exclusive use as a memorial, honoring members of the American and Canadian Armed Forces who lost their lives, and any other uses are prohibited. Now, the area that they use, they designated in terms of the legal description, is a large green grassy area that is in front of the memorial. It also includes the Starbury Fountain. I don't think they realized that when you put this legal description on the ballot or on the ordinance language. But what that would mean is it would mean that if this ordinance passes, that area, which is 0.44 acres or 20% of the park, could only be used for memorial activities. It could never again be used for any other kinds of recreational uses, including the Starbury Fountain. They're not telling you about this, and they're just saying, oh, the monuments, you know, we support veterans. This is what this ordinance would do. It also would require the city to completely remove the park amenities that are being constructed now. In practice, before we started circulating those petitions, and remove them and replace them with the monument back in its original location where it was in 2007. The city manager estimates the cost of removing those amenities that are being put in place now and moving the monument back would be about $400,000. The Downtown Development Authority is paying for the construction of the park. That's not coming out of general fund money. That's being paid for by the Downtown Development Authority. But if we have to take that all out and move the monument back and spend $400,000 to restore the area to what it was in 2007, that's not going to come out of our pocket. That's taxpayer dollars that are going to come out of the recreation budget or some other budget. That's going to be our cost. And that's an enormous cost. And I'm not sure to do that either. Just to say, oh, let's put the money in the back and do like that or anything for it to go. So I put that there, not only the language of ordinance, but also fact sheet explaining why voting no on this is pretty imperative. We want to protect the downtown park. The park has a website. It doesn't have a whole lot on it yet. It's votepark2021.com. It will have more information about the whole issue and how it's imperative that we do use ordinance. It doesn't mean that we hate veterans and that we don't like veterans. It means that just moving the monuments back to 60 feet that they were would be a tremendous service to the park. Which citizens, 1,500 citizens participated in the design process for the park. 80% of those who took part in the public survey about whether or not the monument should move said, yeah, they can move. As long as you treat them with due respect, they can move. They have to move. That portion's already done. The little monuments that were created for other wars after the big ones, they're in safe storage at the EDS yard and they're going to come back when the park is completed and that area is completed, which will should be within the next month or so. The park should be done by November 1st, which is before the election, so you'll get to see what it will look like. On the grass won't be green by now, but you'll get to see how it's going to look. So anyway, information is out there and copy the ordinance is out there if you want to take a look at it. And tell your friends, we're going to have a pretty vigorous campaign about this. As David mentioned, they're out there soliciting money. They're trying to tap every veteran in the state to contribute money to them to get this thing passed. So we have a this network. But it's a pretty significant issue. And it's really going to destroy the park.
One thing that, it's worded so oddly that if you want to protect the park, you have to vote no on that. So, on the ballot, that you support, the design of the park now, you have to vote no, because it's not.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
You mentioned a website. Could you mention that again?
It's votepark2021.com.
We haven't, it's up, but it's under construction right now, so you probably see a big thing. Come back later. As more information comes in and gets those.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're going to do signs. David is designing wonderful signs. What we are trying to do now is get money to afford doing all this stuff. We're getting some donations. There's going to be a fundraiser for this on September 28th at 5:30 at Pronto, downtown the Fort. You'll hear more information about that when that's announced. But that's the way to spend some time. So if you're interested in contributing to this, that will be one of you. I'm going to put putting a donation link on the website.
Yep.
Yeah, so we can also do that going to the website. Another question?
What about door knockers?
Excuse me?
Door knockers.
We're gonna rely on direct mail. Believe it or not, absentee ballots are going to start at the end of September. So we're going to try to do something. We don't have a whole lot of bodies on this committee. Hopefully we'll have both before the absentee ballots go out and before the general. Any other questions? No, okay, I have to leave unfortunately, but I'm gonna. Tell your friends, please. Thank you so much. I know we've been waiting for some updates on that. Like Pat said, the flyer that she created with the, like the facts, as well as the language on the ballot or on the table in the back there. And, we'll continue to share more information right as that website gets up and ways to donate.
Real quick.
Yeah.
People don't have to all be coming up, just raise your hand if you want, and I'll walk around.
Okay, how convenient. Thanks, Ian. So Ian's gonna come around with that information if you want to make sure that you grab it from him. And then obviously for our friends online and for follow-up, we'll be, continuing to share that information, post that information, and get that out to you. I'd like to take a second right now, I'm getting confused about questions now. I'd like to take a second, no, you're good, keep your hands raised. I'd like to take a second to, ask if there are if there's anyone in the meeting right now who has never attended a meeting before or is here after a long absence that would like to say hello or introduce themselves. Yeah, Grant, you'd like to, I'm gonna invite you up, or I'm gonna at least give you the mic, okay?
Hello, I'm Grant Keller, Mr. Royal, not quite 2 years ago, and this is my first time attending, and I look forward to all future meetings.
We're glad to have you. Would anybody else like to say hello or introduce themselves? Fantastic. Democratic Party updates. Art was unable to join us, but I don't think that there's any new news out of State Central. William Asher and his wife are on vacation as well, but he did want me to make an announcement. If you are a current precinct delegate who is planning on running again, you do need to sign that affidavit and get it notarized. Luckily, we have an in-house notary in Tom Regan, so we can get that done for you all here. There's a couple printed copies on the table back by Ian, but he said that it was also emailed to you. If there's anybody in the room right now that is not currently a precinct delegate, there are still just a few openings that we're looking to fill. If you are interested in that at all or want to have a conversation about what that entails, go ahead and email William and he'll get you that information. Candidate reports.
Lauren,
Yeah.
can I go quickly? I will count 3 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, let's do elected official reports instead. Yeah. No problem. Sorry about that. State Rep Jim Ellison joining us.
We still have breaks, so we're not really in session, but something interesting did happen this week. Your call up to Lansing to do the 9/11 ceremony, which we always do, but they took the opportunity to convene the tax policy committee. It seems the most pressing piece of information, the bill that we had to work on at the tax policy committee was the bill that would eliminate the tax on feminine hiking products. Interesting story behind that bill. That's been a Democratic initiative since I've been up there. So we've been working on it for almost 6 years now. The bill was sponsored by Papa Kupa, who's a member of our club, and Tanisha Yancey, who's a Democrat out of Detroit. And so Papa was doing all the legwork on this bill, getting support from both sides of the aisle. Then it got to the point that it looked like the bill had support. So what happened? The Republicans took it. They took it away from Pablo and they gave it to Brian Postumus. And Brian, you may remember, was arrested for drunk driving last month and served 15 days in jail and is running for re-election next year. So what better way to bring his name up than to give him a bill that benefits women all over the state? That's just a sample of what happens. So Pablo did the work, she should get the credit, but it's going to go to the Republican. So, but the good news is the bill passed by committee. We should see it on the House floor next week. We go back for 1 day, and yeah, it's a good thing. Bill itself is a good thing. Just the way they do it. There's skullduggery to get it done. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Any other elected official reports? Ms. Penny, do you want to come up? Do you have anything to share? This is Penny Luke. She is one of our Oakland County Commissioners.
Hi, everybody. So we have a Healthy Aging Town Hall meeting coming up. In Oakland County, we have a senior ad hoc committee meeting.
Just closer to your mouth.
Oh, thank you. We have an ad hoc senior committee meeting that is seeking comments about what we can do more for our seniors. So we've identified 4 different areas in Oakland County to have these town hall meetings. Plus one to us is in Troy, and that will be Friday, September 24th at 1 o'clock at the Troy Community Center. Our Oakland County Michigan Works and Oakland Community College are offering a training for people interested in becoming certified logistics technicians. This job is expected to grow 4% annually through 2029. It's an 8-week program. It's identified for people ages 17 to 24 years old. So it's a free program, a free certification training to move our younger generation along. In Oakland County, I think you all know that everybody's receiving American Rescue money. So Oakland County is going to receive $244 million in total. We have received half to date, the other half will be in May of 2022. So right now we've designated $22 million to services to people. For example, our educated workforce is $6 million. We have $10 million to our mental health services, and that grant just went out this week. So the grant for nonprofits to provide additional or enhanced or increased mental health services. The grant begins at $50,000 up to $500,000. So that grant application will be in by the end of October. Nonprofit groups will have another year to spend that money, but we are one of the issues in Oakland County right now is the Oakland School mask mandate. And so our meetings are generally about 6 hours long now, and listening to public comment. And the Republicans have placed a resolution that will be upcoming to ban the mask mandate. Talks about was to ban any vaccination mandate. Our plan is to keep everybody safe and follow our health department rules. Hi, Jeffrey. I think that was excited support, not a playoff. Playoff stuff. Great, yeah, trust me, as a public school teacher, you're very, very excited about that, that decision. Any other elected official reports? Yeah, I'll do.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all in person. First time I've been able to join in person. I love being back together. We've got an election year. I think everyone else probably can update you on their campaign. So I'll just tell you about a little bit of city business. Mr. Bruce and I are the 2 lucky ones who are not up for re-election this year, so we will remain. So I'm very passionate about you all helping to get my friends re-elected so that we can do great things together. Couple things to live for you. One, you're all aware that under UFO, we've got $29 million to spend to help our community, our residents, our businesses recover and invest going forward as we kind of continue to rise out of the pandemic and the struggles that it's created. We've brought on consulting firms to help us achieve our goals and met with all the commissioners and worked with strategizing about what we want to do and figure out what we can do in partnership with the county and the state to make those dollars go even further. So a few of the things that I put forward in those conversations are do with these dollars are one, clearly stormwater and water infrastructure and whatever those dollars to upgrade and green our city's infrastructure, which clearly with the rising tide of the storm events that is currently our new normal, we have to start those dollars to incentivize senior-friendly and affordable housing. That we've been talking about for a long time, where, you know, we want developers to build what we tell them to build. We actually have to have some skin in the game, create some incentives and some policies that help drive that whole. And this is an opportunity for us to do that and really have an impact. And of course, looking at, you know, what we can do to help make sure local businesses continue to weather the challenges they're experiencing. So, you know, trying to ensure that, you know, on Main Street and our downtown and retail and restaurants stay vibrant and their employees continue to stay while all things kind of remain murky here. And then lastly, we approved last meeting or 2 meetings ago for staff to enter into exploratory conversations with the YMCA, who are very much looking for a new facility. We had this discussion at the table about just what would partnership look like using some of these dollars to potentially build a new like recreational facility. Would that be a pool? Would that be some other community need being met? And is there value in a partnership with the YMCA and potential other stakeholders? You know, a lot of great service providers in the region that might partner with us on if we could put the money forward for infrastructure and maybe run it. And what would that look like if we bring something really valuable and important and new to the community? So more on that, but that's something really exciting. One other thing I want to share with you was, I think we talked a few times about a tree ordinance, and we got a really good tree ordinance on the books, kind of all of that account, and that's where when a developer wants to rebuild on a site, if they take down trees, we used to have, there was 1-to-1 trees, right? But if you take down a tree that's like a 100-year-old tree, you're replacing it with sapling, that's really not, I mean, it'll eventually be, you know, 100 years, right? But you know, it's not really a 1-to-1. So we're replacing with an ordinance where they have to replace the circumference of the tree. So if it's, you know, 200 inches in circumference, they need to replace with 200 inches of circumference that many trees. Whatever circumference they don't replace, per inch, there's a fee. So we had our first developer that kind of fell into this rule. And because they took down, you know, it was a spot on 11 miles, big trees over there. And they only replaced so much on the site. Ended up being, I think, about $35,000, $40,000 going to our tree farm. Which I'm like, yeah, this working. We put $40,000 with one development to aggressively restore and rebuild our tree canopy. That's exactly what we want. So, having more discussion on that on Monday is obviously the developers are going to have opinions about that. But my opinion is this is exactly how we wanted this to work. We want those dollars, one, to make them think really hard as they're planning their site, and they have to take those trees down because they're really costly. And if they did, then we as a community have the ability to aggressively, rapidly replace that tree. So I'm really excited about how that all is working. So I hope you all are too. That's the top of my for me from a city commission perspective. So my friends here, go ahead and your updates on this. Thank you.
Any questions for Kyle? No? Okay. The remaining city commissioners that are here, I don't know how you want to handle this. Do you want to do, like, are there any other city updates as they stand from you as commissioners, or do you just want to give updates about your campaign? Okay. Do we want to come Brian? Yeah, you want to come up all together? However you're most comfortable. Cool. So we are going to hear from our current city mayor and city commissioners who are also running for re-election. We've got all sorts of good information about how we can continue to help their campaigns. We've got information about how you can volunteer. We've also got a bank of yard signs over there, which is exciting. So we'll hear from them, and then I'll share a little bit more information with you.
All right. Looks like I'm going to take the lead here. Real quick, just to echo some of the things that Commissioner DeBuck was talking about. You know, we are looking towards, you know, we've done things in the past, but really I think what this next term are going to be about is actually solidifying and cementing these things for future generations when it comes to investing in our infrastructure, doing it the right way, having an environmental sustainability plan, looking at how to keep and make Royal Oak home for everybody, regardless of, you know, who you worship, what you look like, how old you are, how much money you make. These things are important, and we've learned, and we have lots of experience up here It's been a big privilege and honor for me to serve with these folks. So there's a lot on the table. Some of the things we're going to do, speaking Penny talking about town halls, we're coordinating and working with Jim Nash's office to really provide an update about what we're doing, not just in general with infrastructure, our roads, some of the basic blocking and tackling, but what is it going to look like in the future when it comes to stormwater management, green infrastructure, and how do we coordinate with the county, the state, the city, and the 11 other cities that are on the Coon Drain system. So, we're trying to get the details together. It shouldn't be something that's overwhelming, but it'll be a good opportunity, a good town hall to ask questions about the future of Royal Oak. And these are things that obviously, took 50 years to put in place. And, we're not going to fix them overnight, but there's going to be an immense amount of coordination. I think a big part of that is making sure everybody has a say and everybody has input, because we found great success, whether it be the design of Centennial Commons and other things we've done in the city. The more public engagement we get, the better the outcome. From a campaigning point of view, every 2 years, Mayor, I'm not going to say it doesn't become exhausting, but it's, it's a challenge. I'm very grateful that we have a community that understands the importance, the weight that Royal Oak carries, and that, are motivated to come out and do everything from door knock to do telephone calls to raise money to get our positive message out. I think one thing that this club and all of us here today, some of us that couldn't make it today, we've always had a positive message. We've always gone down the route of showcasing the things that we do, the things that we believe in. And this election cycle is no different. We have a lot of good things to talk about. We have a lot of accomplishments. And in fact, talking a little bit about development, over the years, and especially the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to talk to lots of developers. And, Royal Oak is a desirable place for people to live, but also for people to invest. And when we talk about some of the important issues to us, like I mentioned before, environmental sustainability, attainable housing, things of this nature, I was just on a telephone call with somebody interested in Royal Oak the other day. And great, sounds like you have some interest in doing projects. How do you feel about veteran transition housing? How do you feel about, attainable housing? How do you feel about making sure that your building is LEED certified and whatever you want to do? And it wasn't even a debate. But yeah, whatever you need. Royal Oak is a place we want to be, and we will make it happen. And so you have experienced leadership up here today from very many different backgrounds that understand how to negotiate a better deal for Royal Oak. We've been doing that. We continue to do that. We can't do it alone. We need the help of all of our citizenry. We need the help of our business owners. We need the help of our state and county partners. And I think we have a strong track record to show that when we work together, we can get things done. When we focus on the positive mission, we get things done. So we're not in the home stretch this year. The election is going to be really different. Absentee voters are going to be, we're seeing more people pull ballots, people that we've never seen in our universe pull ballots before, which is really exciting. I think that's exciting. But we're going to have to, we all love this community. We all love this town. It's not always just up to the elected. It's up to all of us to make and keep Royal Oak the wonderful city that it is. And we're so grateful for all the help that our friends have contributed to our campaign. We look forward to serving another 2 and 4 terms. Well, Monica, I guess, for 2, right? Yeah, Monica brought us in. So with that, I'll hand it over to whoever wants to speak next. And oh, by the way, happy to answer any questions as well.
Okay, I'm just going to give a general update on the status of the campaign, so not just for me specifically, but for all of us. I don't know if it feels this way out there, but it feels to me at least like this campaign has been a little slower, a little less noisy than the other ones. Outside of Veterans Memorial, which has been quite noisy in social media at least. But I do feel like this time, part of the reason they're looking at the Veterans Memorial, and that's what the thing they're talking about is because we're busy doing the work at the city, we're doing all these great things, and things are happening in the city. And they don't really have anything to pull us down with. They tried to pull us down with the marijuana establishment. Turns out we're a little bit happy they have a marijuana establishment coming to the city. They tried to pull us down about the downtown development. Now the city hall is up, the police station is up. People love what they see there and they're excited about that new part. So we've been really doing the work of the city and they've been trying to find how they're going to attack us on it. And that's why I think we're seeing these strange tactics with the veterans, using the veterans against us and saying that the city hates veterans, which is of course absurd. And then the latest thing that we're seeing is talking about, affordable housing. So I saw, I don't know if you've seen all this happening, but, I saw this 2 days ago, I think someone posted saying, look what's happening in Birmingham, they're trying to do this here too. And it was someone in Birmingham complaining that their city was looking at affordable housing and ways to increase diversity. And the post was saying, who said we want affordable housing? Why would we want to increase diversity? And that's what they're looking at trying to do. They're trying to pull us down about things that are core to our values here in Royal Oak. And I don't think it's being very effective, which is why I think it's been a quiet campaign season so far, but we know there's going to be more coming out and we have to be ready for it. The next 2 months are going to be really, I think, a lot busier. And I think you heard Pat say, the first wave of absentee ballots is going out in 2 weeks. So that's very, very soon. So we need as much help as we can get. If you can pick your yard signs up, at least people will let people know that there is an election coming. And then talk to people about the election and see what they're thinking, make sure they know what's happening, make sure they're getting their ballots. And if they have any questions, please bring them back to us. I mean, I know a lot of people here are already precinct delegates, but I'd like to deputize all of you that if you have questions out there, we had a question for a precinct delegate a couple of weeks ago saying, somebody asked me about these ballot initiatives, please explain them to me. We'd love to do that for you and help you spread the word. So if you have questions, come to any of us. We'd love to talk to you about that. Dora's been leading our volunteer efforts, so she also is a great person to go to. If you want to help us out, or if you have any questions, she can get it to us quickly too. And lastly, Kyle wanted to make sure I remember to say that one thing that you can do this year to help, so door knocking is always available, but this year we also have expanded our democratic universe of people that we're trying to reach out to include people who have voted recently democratically, absentees who maybe in the past wouldn't have gone to municipal elections if that's all there was, but now it's going to appear in their mailbox, they will. So we want to be making calls to those people. We know they're Democrats, so it's the easiest way, I think, to get into this work is to just be calling people you know are Democrats and saying, hey, there's an election coming up. Here are people we're looking at voting for. Hope you do too. And let me know if you have any questions. So you can sign up for that before as well, or talk to any of us. Again, we appreciate your support. We couldn't do this without this club. We know we've got the best thing down. What's next?
Morning. I echo everything that Kyle, Melanie, and Mike just said. We've done a lot of great things here in the city of Royal. We don't want it to stop now. What we're doing now is not just for next year or the year after, it's for the future generations. We want to make sure that we're continuing to make Royal progress and be the best Royal that it can be. So like Melanie said, we're out, campaigning now. The campaign is starting to heat up. There's long signs out. I don't have mine over there, but they will be in on Tuesday. If you let me know that you want one, I will bring one to your house.
So there's also a form that I'll ask Lauren to send out. You can request any of your signs a little bit, including Monica starting Tuesday.
And we're all out during the week, on the weekends, knocking on doors, talking to voters, not just talking about ourselves and, what we will do for the city, but seeing what the residents want at the city, any questions that they have, any issues that they have. I've been talking to people, they have issues, I take them back to the city and try to get resolutions for them. But we're out, we're knocking on doors. If you're interested in knocking with us and coming with us, let us know, let Dora know. And we all thank you for your support.
It's always really hard to follow all these people because they all say amazing things, and now here I am. So thank you all for coming out here today. I was late today. My son had his soccer opening day. And over at Warden Park, I think every child in the city is in that park right now. Now, of course, my wife and I, work all the time. And we do city commission. I city commission. My wife helps me so much. I mean, she puts up so much sweat. So I can put time in, knocking on doors, going to city commission meetings, going to a sustainability meeting I saw Paul at the other day. That's what we do. We're out all the time. In the community, we're involved because that's how you make things better, being out there. So of course, we run out of the house to take Henry Two's pictures, and we forget his cleats and shin guards at home. So the run home, comes back, just barely made it for pictures. But this is why we do all that we do. It's for a better community. seeing, you know, I'm gonna say thousands of kids, maybe millions, you know, let's say there's a million kids at Warden Park. See them all out there today, they're just enjoying the community and all they have to offer. When Overy Oaks was being built, we added 2 full-size soccer pitches, so that these kids can go play and have a full-size field, they can host competitions there. The downtown Botanical Commons has so many things integrated into it. It's not just for children. I mean, we're looking at seniors too. We're all this, you know, senior centers that is very actually used every day. There's so many things that we're trying to do in Royal Oak that we're trying to keep up doing because we want to make sure those kids grow up here, want to stay here, live here, and then retire here. And that's, you know, that's what this is all about. So this is a great city to live in. I'm very honored to serve with everyone. And I'm honored to serve for all of you. So with that, please take a long time, sign up, and let's do this. Thank you.
Quick question. Other than the ballot initiatives, I tend to think that the people in the city don't know all the good things that commissioners do to the city. So is there anything that comes to mind that you think doesn't get enough attention? That I mean, there's big ones, there's the new park. Is there anything that we should be talking about on our feed and everything like that, to kind of how what's been done to the city that we can celebrate as opposed to knock it out in the individual parts? Is there anything that comes to mind that we should be talking about more?
There's so many things. Mr. Mayor, want to go? See, I like to deflect.
That's okay.
Well, a great question, and it's hard to parse it all out. I'll say, you know, just top of mind, it's not just the big parks, it's the small parks. And it's not just putting up a play structure, it's looking at the needs of the community and looking at exercise equipment for all generations. It's looking at, you know, taking an area that, you know, maybe 5 years ago was looking to be sold, or 10 years ago looking to be sold because to fund the city finances, and we kept it. We said now we got rid of we didn't get rid of some, not the purple bag, but some antiquated play equipment like down in Mohawk, and we're really taking that park and making it awesome. So there are a lot of small little investments like that. I'd also say too that we are a community of community. So last night I wasn't able to attend because, or 2 nights ago, I can't remember, right? With 3 kids, you have conflicts all the time with games and soccer practice and swimming. Funny story about that. We had to go up to Rochester and my son forgot his whole bag. And I'm like, oh my gosh, don't lose your temper. You date. You have one thing to do, bring your bag. That's it. I drive. I wake you up, I get you breakfast, you just have to bring your bag. Mysteriously, a ferry must have took it out. He's like, it was in here. I'm like, clearly it wasn't. But we have a lot of programming that goes on in the city, especially from our arts area. So we had a concert at the farmer's market the other night. You saw it heavily advertised. We had Shakespeare in the park, which is a great thing. So, I mean, people often want to look at the nuts and bolts, the roads, the sewers, you know, the buildings, and that's all good. That's great. But there are a lot of things too that aren't necessarily physical. And I'd say, you know, anytime we see an opportunity where community can get together, where we can celebrate our love of art or our love of just each other. And I think Royal Oak, one of the things that, you know, is, I want to say undervalued. I mean, people that live here, we know it and feel it. But just these events and small, whether it's a small summer concert series, Marktoberfest. I mean, there is so much to do in this community that's worthwhile, that actually is meaningful. It's not just pub crawls and whatever. I mean, these are things that are like really speak to who we are, our animal, you know, how we love animals, how we love music, how we love art. And so, you know, even the food truck rallies, even the things that we do, like neighborhoods getting together in the Northwood stuff. We didn't, I missed you there, Rick. You know, just small things like that, how we as a community actually have a sense of community, I think is something that we should be celebrating every day. Maybe that's something we kind of take for granted, but, you know, enjoy it, celebrate it. Yes?
Mike, in the past, there's always been candidates forums put on by the League of Women Voters, Chamber of Commerce, other organizations.
Yeah.
Are there going to be any of those this year?
Yes, there are. Well, it's going to be a different format this year. We got news that they're going to be doing like a quick video clip. So I think on September 21st, we get filmed. And I got the Birmingham one. I'm like, oh my gosh, man, I must be really short on sleep. Did I move? What happened? But kidding aside, we're going to be doing it on the 21st. And it's a little wonky. It's not necessarily, because they're going to give us questions ahead of time, which I mean, I'm not going to judge the League of Women Voters in because they do a great job, but it's not as much fun. I love the anticipation. Plus, I feel like our opponents, will get their coaching and, not sure, I think that when it comes to these forums, one, at least traditionally, is that you cannot actually have someone genuinely answer a question, authentically answer a question. And that matters and how they answer. It's not scripted. You can see people for who they are, all the good. And, some of the things I'm sure people look at me and they say, oh, that's good. And I thought, what did he just say? That's weird. And that's helpful for people making decisions. So there's going to be videos out there. And, we encourage, maybe that's a different avenue for folks to share them. And, maybe that's a better thing than just the traditional form. But the questions ahead of time, I'm not a scripted guy, even worse. So maybe I'm just biased, but yeah, that's how we're going to do it. Not me, but legal and lawyers. And much praise to them because they could have easily taken and said, oh, well, we can't have a form or anything like that. Because, they're a little nervous about getting it, which I get and understand. So that's their measure that they're going to take to remedy it. That's the end.
I was just curious, I just noticed since the CDC has put out advice again for even vaccinating people to wear masks, et cetera, I started wearing mine again everywhere, but I noticed at grocery stores, places I go into, I'm one of like 5 people I encounter in the entire store that is wearing a mask, despite signs on all the front of these businesses demanding wearing masks. Have we thought about instituting a local mask mandate? Is that something that's been discussed?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, so there are some, we kind of had this discussion internally, and I had to be careful, like some of it deals with, our operation employees and whatnot, and there's limitations that we have as a city that, prohibit us from doing things that, we might feel are necessary. We do rely a lot on the county health department, that is our de facto health department and their guidance. And even within our own buildings, there's certain challenges that can arise and things of that nature. It's really, I think most people fundamentally believe that common sense should accompany all sort of legislation, but there are ways that cities are set up to fail when it comes to issues like this. So, I think just my personal belief on this is that, sadly, I don't think we're going to be able to legislate our way out of this pandemic. I think, businesses need to step up. And when I see businesses loose with the rules or loose with public health, I just presume they're out washing their hands in the back room. You know what I mean? And I don't go. I avoid them. When I see businesses that are doing what they're supposed to be doing and they take a more firmer position, I will try to frequent them more. To the extent that the county and the state, and even the governor has been strict to her emergency orders. So it's really unfortunate. And I heard, actually I said this to my wife, Nikki's here today, by the way, everyone, she's feeling a little better. And I heard a doctor say it, I think on CNN the other night, it's with this whole vaccine thing, it's like, we had David here talking about, the military and, how folks were drafted. And maybe some of you guys heard the same thing, but it's like, we're all being drafted to get the vaccine, to wear our masks, to help each other. You know what I mean? And I think when you really put it in that context, back in the day, Vietnam, we drafted people to go to war and fight for our freedom and our democracy and our way of life. In a way, as civilians, we're being drafted to get our shots, put our masks on, protect each other, and to keep our way of life and restore our way of life. And so, the city, again, I'm talking a lot here and giving way too much personal dialogue, but it's really hard for us to do it. I'm for stronger measures, but, to the extent that that just results in political theater and lawsuits and all of that, I don't want to say that this team isn't trying. It's just we have to be rational about, where we spend our efforts, where we spend our legal fees and all of that. If we know it's a losing battle, the next best thing we can do is try to, work the political angle and the encouragement angle. So the cities are really, we're incorporated as part of the state. It's, we don't have as much autonomy as
I just asked, I feel like I'm homebound because every time I go out places, I feel less comfortable being in public places because it's becoming more and more the norm for people not to wear masks, and it just pisses me off. And rather than get into a fist fight with somebody, I just stay home.
So Ian, the only thing I'll do is I'll point out, everyone in this room has a mask on right now, and it's because all city buildings, you have to have a mask. So that's one thing we can't control. We can't control our city buildings. So you're safe. You're safe here. You're safe at City Hall. So, we're doing what we can control, like that. So, you'll continue to be safe here as long as we're in church. Other questions? Okay, with that, back to Lauren.
Seems like there's something. Trying to stay separated from each other. Lots of wonderful updates. Like I said, when I walked away, I felt like we were at like a little pep rally there. We need to do the work to protect our elected officials. We need to do the work to support everything that they're doing. And like Mike said, I think that you put it really well. I think we take for granted the things that are going so well, right? When we're happy and safe and comfortable in our communities, we forget that we need to speak out about the things that we support. And so this is our time to do that. We have yard signs in the back. I'm sure you people need to sign up to take those or anything, or just help yourselves.
We take them, I'm not operating with that.
Okay, good. So we'll help yourselves. I will get that list out for others that want to, that either can't or don't want to take them today. And it sounds like the commissioners and volunteers will drop them off. We also have Thora Hansen, who is over there. She has turfs cut, lit packets of lit ready to go. If you feel like hitting the streets in this beautiful day and this weekend, oh, yep. Good. We've got a great lit for the slate over there. We'll do some door knocking and drop off and things like that. So if you're interested in volunteering, feel free to sign up with her or grab a packet on your way out. You can do that anytime this week. There are also organized door knockings going on every Wednesday afternoon. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Wednesday evening, if you want to meet up and do that like with a group, we're also organizing that. Thora's phone number is on the agenda for the month, and that's also been sent out a couple of times. So feel free to volunteer or just always, shoot us an email. We'll get you hooked up with the right people. But we need some people. I think the message for today's meeting is definitely like, we gotta walk the walk, right? We gotta do the things that we believe in. We gotta work for the stuff that we say we feel strongly about. A couple just additional announcements down at the bottom there. We will continue holding our third Thursday bar nights. Really, maybe we should not call them bar nights anymore. They're drink at home nights, but they're still a lot of fun. Those have been hosted ongoing by Cultures. They're just a great opportunity to meet a little bit more informally, discuss some of the things going on, and make sure that we're touching base. And maybe we'll be able to continue having those, but as of right now, Paul's going to continue to host them online. I'll follow up with the Zoom link, obviously, for that. But that's going to be this coming Thursday, the 16th at 7 o'clock. And it's just a chance for us to, meet some more people and chat. There's also opportunities to volunteer for State Senator Mallory McMorrow. They are doing a couple organized lit drops as well. If you want any information about those dates, or ways to help out with her campaign, you can contact Debbie Rosenman. She is organizing those volunteers. That's a great opportunity. We have to make sure that we protect Mallory's seat as well. Things are very up in the air right now in terms of redistricting. I thought there was going to be a decision made this week, and it sounds like they filed. Has anyone heard any updates about that? There was an extension filed because of census data. I don't know. So we thought we were going to have drafts of the maps this week, and it sounds like we probably will not. I don't think we're going to know for sure until January what those maps are going to look like and where everyone's districts are. So we're just going to cross our fingers that we can hold on to Mallory and that we're going to do the work to keep her seat. If you want to further support our candidates, there is going to be a great little meet and greet event hosted by Lynn and Marie. Lynn, are you here? No? Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. But that's going to be Sunday, the 19th. Yeah, if you're interested in joining, the information and contact is there at the bottom of the agenda. Before we do break, I got a little flustered between our candidate reports and elected official reports. It's going to overlap here for another couple months. But I would like to invite, we've got a couple really important school board members here joining us. Would you guys like to come up, give us a little update about what's going on with schools? Maybe you guys have heard there are like some things going on in public schools lately, just a few issues. Yeah, why don't you let us know how the first week's going? Well, I'll do it quick. I want to do a quick thank you. Yeah. So, I don't know if all of you know that Royal Oak Schools actually came out on August 2nd.
Mary, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Mary Ann Van Heisma. So this is my 5th year, starting on the school board, 5th year actually. But we came out August 2nd with a mask mandate. Never changed, we started with that. We're really happy that Oakland County supported that and made that a much easier decision for us. Thanks for Kathy London here, Kathy, who has come to our board meetings to support us as well. We've had some negative comments come to us, but for the most part, they've been positive, supporting our decision. And working in the hospital system, I can only feel that that's the best solution for all of us to layer those mitigation strategies, keep our kids in school. Our goal is to get the kids in school, keep them in school. That's what they need. So, yeah, so we're very grateful to that. First week of school has been a little challenging if you watch the news. But our kids were thrilled to be in school. Our teachers are thrilled to be in school. We had 2 schools under construction, Adams and Upton. Not completely done yet, but the kids are in there and there's still work to be completed. Same thing. So actually staff is just thrilled to be back in person as well as families.
I'll mix up a little bit, since we're running really short on time. Does anybody have any questions to start before we keep ranking about things we might not have questions about? And if it's also, you can ask a question, that's fine too. Penny and Lisa are not too very long, I'm very grateful for that. So really positive news story. My name is Tim, I'm a trustee. This is Mary Ann, our vice president, she forgot the title. Oh, she's kind of having her.
I'm 1 of 7. One of 7.
Yeah, super exciting story that was in the news about 2 weeks ago. The district has installed UV air filters in all of our classrooms, which basically makes our classrooms as sterile as an operating suite. So we're going to stay safe, our teachers will be safe, our students will be safe, and that's really what we're here for.
Hi, Erica Alexander, trustee. I think one of the other things I wanted to mention, which was unfortunately on the news last night, some of you caught it. There's a particular individual who's bothered by the elementary school lunch selections. What hasn't been shared, I think, is some of the reasoning for that, some of the reasoning that we made that decision for that particular menu was to allow for the staff and the students to acclimate to being back in person and the safety and the opportunities to keep them spread further apart and figure out how to serve all kids that would possibly be wanting the free lunches. So there are, I think, some things that have just been left out, the fact that all of the meals that are being provided, and all of the nutrition guidelines and all of those things. And in fact, as some people have noted on social media, the things that some of the parents are arguing about are actually things that are really enjoyed by children and are eaten by children. And some teachers and some lunch monitors who commented that these are the types of things that don't tend to get thrown away, whereas some of the other things do. So just I think it's always important to be sure that the whole story is out there and that we can, that it's not in fact true that we don't care about children and their dietary needs. So appreciate it. Thanks. I did bring a copy, and part of the menu challenge was the wording. And so our Chartwells is our food service provider, and they tried to make the meal options fun sounding. And by doing that, it highlighted the fun part and not the yogurt and the cheese and the protein and all of those other things that are part of a balanced meal. So I did bring a redone menu, which is available on our website. Somebody cared to see it. But just our continued thanks to the community as well. We're grateful that we have the mask mandate. We want kids to stay in school and we want everybody to remain healthy. And thank you.
Yeah, just a comment, thanks for supporting the community garden. It looks like it's going to get started at Churchill School next year, so thank you for that.
Oh, yes, thank you very much. So there was, the middle school, I think, as all of you are aware, has incidents come up periodically.
There was another incident of a child calling, another child a name, which is totally inappropriate. It started actually on social media before the school was made aware of it, unfortunately. But, you know, so we tolerate nothing of that kind. Obviously, and so a message was sent by the middle school principal to families. And talking with a parent at work yesterday, who has a 7th grader, they did the appropriate thing. They had a conversation with their child. They sat down, explained how do you treat other people, all the appropriate things. But we would hope that every family member that we see that communication had that same conversation with their children. You know, but we don't know, right? So I think it's really important that to know that we do not tolerate any behavior of that kind. It's addressed immediately when, you know, the schools are aware of it. So I don't know if that answers your question. Thank you.
Any other questions for board members? Okay. Yeah, great. Thank you so much for that. Any other last minute announcements, information to share, events, Tom?
If you're interested in getting solar power panels on your roof with a battery backup, I'm having a meeting about that at my house next Saturday at 11 a.m. and I can give you more details.
Next Saturday, we'll include it in an email update, but yeah, Tom, making the switch to solar power. If you're interested in any of that information, he's gonna set a good example for all of us. Any other announcements, comments, events coming up? Yeah, don't forget Guntoberfest. We would love to have you there. It would really help us if you bought the tickets ahead of time so that we can, you know, plan accordingly for attendance. But there are going to be tickets available at the door, and we would love to see you there. We want to get back to, you know, doing some celebrating and some mingling and some beer drinking. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your day, and we hope that you, as you move forward, you know, you have some time to think about the things addressed here, spend some moments of reflection as we move forward. So thank you so much for your time. Any points or motions on the floor? Motion to adjourn? Yeah, thanks. Do I have a second? I want to stay on it. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, good. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Also, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.